So I've been requested to talk about something that I mentioned briefly online a while back, was that you shouldn't really receive energy treatments from somebody who is sick or who looks sick. So let me explain this. First of all, here's a good example. If I look a little rough, myself rougher than usual even, it's because I just came out of hospital. Nothing too bad. Just something happened, need to go in for a couple of days, it's all right. So just on a few meds at the moment. So consequently, these things happen, my health is a little low, you know. So one thing I would not do at this period of time, and also for a couple of weeks after recovery at least, is I would not do anything with qi with another person. I just wouldn't. Because I know that because my body is not in the best state it can be in, because I picked up an infection, basically, and that infection needed treating. Because my body is not in such a good condition, then I won't be able to do a good job if I'm going to push my qi into somebody else or into a space where people are training. And on top of that, there's a chance that I could be detrimental for somebody's health as well. And this is the nature of the responsibility of energy work. So what I mean by energy work is the ability or the use of sending energy from your body to the other person's. Now, you will see many treatments of this: hands-on healing, or wei qi liao fa, or fa qi, or praying over someone perhaps, or Reiki, or there's so many different things, isn't there? And if you go to where I grew up in Glastonbury in the UK, is very close to where I grew up anyway. You can find 1,000 different therapies, all based upon energy work. So I'm sure you know what I mean. Now, some energy work will say, oh, we don't use our own energy. We use energy that comes through us, but it is still passed through your body. So it is still passed through your filter. There is no energy work that does not involve the transmission of energy work from you, your body, to the other person. So I've seen so many people try to deny this. They say, no, Reiki comes from somewhere different or something. It doesn't. It may originate in a different place if you're really, really good at what you do, which will take years and years and years of practice, but it still passes through your filter. There is still a bit of you that is involved. So therefore, what happens is there are various forms of things that transfer across. One of these would be literally your own vitality, your own energy to the other person, which is why energy work can also drain you. And this is where this is again where I disagree with these people that say the energy comes in through my crown, from the heavens and the angels and out through me. It still comes from you. It still takes some of your energy, which is why those people who work that way with energy, with qi or whatever they want to call it, qi or prana, whatever their system talks about, if they do lots and lots of it, if they're actually effective at mobilizing that qi, they do look very drained. They get very tired afterwards. And from a Chinese medical perspective, if I were to look at them and observe them, they don't look radiant. They look like they are depleted in blood and yin and qi, and they look unhealthy. The reason is because they're doing too much. You can't, before we even get into what I was talking about in the post about being healthy, you can't constantly keep giving out this life force in various forms. And some of that life force is very weak, as in the natural bioelectric field around your body that can be affected by your mind, okay? Or there is very deep, where I draw the energy from inside my body, from the dantian or from the bones, and I send it out. There's different forms, Whichever form, that's a lot stronger, that second one, but whichever form you're doing, there is a cost upon your health, okay? So realistically, most high-level energy workers don't live that long. They don't live amazingly long lives, the ones that are constantly issuing energy to treat someone. Why do you think that is? Because that qi is a part of your life force. So therefore, that energy needs to be used sparingly. And I know energy work in schools that claim this is not the case, and yet look at the lifespan of the vast majority of the ones that are in the public eye. It doesn't go very well. You only have to look at I'm sure there's arguments why this is not the case, but you only have to look at the age of the person who invented Reiki. How old was he when he died? My granddad outlived most of these people, and he, drank alcohol and ate fried food every single day of his life and never did an ounce of exercise in his entire life, and he still outlived them because genetics plays a part as well. My family does have quite good genetics in that way, but also he wasn't issuing energy. He's not pushing his life force out of his body every single day like many of these guys are. I've had some teachers that are very good in the past, very, very skilled with energy, and I watched them pushing energy out into students, into patients, transmitting into spaces when they're teaching. They died early. It's usually what happened. And the same thing happened as well in those schools where some kind of story was conducted. It was either an illness they had as a kid that come back, or an injury or something like that, but it's always the same. If you push your life force out, there's going to be a price for it. So therefore, if you're going to be an energy worker, one of the things you'll need is an abundance of energy. You'll need lots of it. You'll need to learn how to fill your body up very, very efficiently. Right now, because I've been in hospital, I'm a little low on energy. I can feel it. I feel okay, but I just feel like it's not. I'm not quite as radiant as I usually am. So therefore, my mission right now is not to put energy out, but just to keep building. And my body is already starting to produce that energy from my practice to refill me. And that'll take me some time to do, of course. But that's the sensible thing to do while you're recovering. But many people that are working with energy, they've done like a short course in it or an online course in it, which is even worse, or something like that, and they've trained in it, and then they don't really know how to fill up, or they haven't done a decade of filling, which is the kind of length it takes, 15 years of filling every single day in order to have that abundance of energy that you can do that treatment. So the result is maybe sometimes they can get chi out, but that chi is not coming from a reserve. You are drawing upon the fumes in the tank, and the result is your health will start to go down. And there are many Qigong therapists or energy workers or Wei Qi Liao Fa or any of these things that when you see them, they don't look healthy. They look vacuum packed. They look like there's no blood and there's no fluid in them. There's no mass on their body. They just look like that sort of the what do you call him? The commentator, the guy who introduced everybody on Tales from the Crypt Keeper. They don't look good. Now, what that means is if they don't have an abundance of energy, they're not radiant in health. And not only are they draining themselves while they do the treatment, but on top of that, they're passing the information from their body into their patient. They're passing the information across. Because qi, as well as having a kind of substance to it, it also has a kind of resonance, and it will carry an information across. In the same way that, bugs can be contagious. If one person's got a cold, everyone around them catches a cold or something like that. The same thing can happen with regards to qi. If there is a pattern within my body and I'm going to push that pattern out into somebody else, then the result is their body after a while will start to replicate it. Now, because of the way that energetics work, sometimes that will go straight into a matched system. So I have an issue with my liver, they have an issue with their liver now, or something like that. Sometimes it will transfer to another system within the body and just manifest as something completely different. Or maybe their body is very, very strong, so when I push my pathogen into them, then what happens is, they start to process it, but their health starts to suffer. So there's many implications for that. And this is why you get many Hindu schools or yogic schools particularly, but I know there's some Chinese ones as well, that will say, no energy work. You shouldn't pass energy from someone onto someone else. You shouldn't do it. And this is a part of the reason why, because of the implications of passing your energy onto someone else. Now, I'm not that strict. I don't believe that you shouldn't do that, but I do believe that there should be a process of understanding the responsibility you have as a therapist. So if I am a manual therapist, maybe not so important, but if you are an energy worker, then you have a responsibility to be more abundantly healthy than the people you are treating. That is your responsibility. And I'm not demonstrating that very well myself, but, even monkeys fall out of trees, let's say. But you have that responsibility to be healthier than the people you are treating, and that means physically. So therefore, you shouldn't be massively overweight. You shouldn't be horribly underweight. You shouldn't have some affliction that you could fix, that you could deal with through diet or exercise or something like that. You shouldn't be emotionally out of whack, okay? I'm very strict on this, and this is a part of the reason why in my school, I don't teach energy treatments. It's one of the most requested things for us. Can you teach us to push qi out of our body into someone else? And I would say, no, not at all. I would teach qigong, but some people will be invited at a certain stage in their training to study that other aspect with me through invite. Now, part of the reason they are invited is because not only are they selected by their time in the school and their competence, but also their health, their physical health and their psychological and emotional health as well. Because if that person is not psychologically and emotionally healthy, then they are pushing that form of information into the patient's body as well, therefore being detrimental to their health. You only have to look at Chinese medicine and how they discuss the connection between organs, emotions, psychology, and qi. It's all connected, right? So therefore the emotions, emotional extremes or excesses or chronic patterns of emotions are seen as pathological. So I don't wish to be passing that emotional information into my patient. Now, many people are not very emotionally or psychologically strong. And sadly, a lot of those people seem to want to be therapists, and I'm anti it. I think that a therapist should be abundantly physically healthy and abundantly psychologically and emotionally healthy. They also shouldn't have an excess of pathogens within the body, such as damp, such as cold, such as heat. Nobody's perfect, we all have something. But we should be working at all times to regulate that within our body. So one of the things that I was taught before I was doing anything with Wei Qi to pass Qi out of the body, externalized energy, was to clean the system. And I went through years of opening the channels and pushing all of the negative toxins out of the system. Now, those negative toxins were sometimes in the level of the nerves, adhesions caught up in my body, sometimes in the level of Qi within the channels. This is what they call Xie Qi in Chinese medicine, or Bing Qi, sick Qi, that needs to come out. I had to clean the blood, okay, and there's a very specific way to clean the blood within arts like Qigong and Neigong, and basically to push as much of this out of my body. Then on top of that, a large amount of meditative and centering training in order to create the right mindset in order to govern the Qi properly and to ensure that it was the correct resonance that you're passing on to the patient. And all of that took place for a long time before I even started to learn how to emit the Qi out of the body. Now, this is what people are not doing. And this is why I made a statement saying that, look, and this is basically what I said. I could read it out. It doesn't matter. I'll find my phone later. I'm paraphrasing. I was basically saying, don't receive energy treatments off someone who is sick. That was basically what I said. I said it in more words, in a more delicate fashion. But look, if someone offers you energy work, and the amount of times you go on a retreat, you're on a yoga retreat, a meditation retreat, Tai Chi retreat, Qigong retreat, or you're out and about in a town like Ubud, and this is where it's come up because some of the people I'm in teaching have been going for treatments in Ubud with these therapists who just look like they're going to die any second. And I said to them, don't, look at them. Think about what's happening. You are having the resonance from their body to yours. So if they're not radiantly physically healthy, and they don't have to be perfect, but they have to be pretty good, if they're not radiantly healthy and they're not radiantly psychologically healthy and they're not radiantly mentally centered, and if their body looks like it has toxins in, or they look drained and empty and like a corpse, don't have treatments off them. Why would you want the energy off of that person? Because you are now taking that information into you. And at the same time, if you are a therapist, your responsibility is to ensure that you are passing on the best thing you possibly can. Now, I don't just apply that to energy workers. I think acupuncturists, I think massage, I think GPs. Like when we did our acupuncture training at the diploma, one thing I always try to reinforce to them is if you are massively overweight, you need to lose weight. If you have a shit diet, you need to improve your diet. If you drink too much, you need to drink, well, stop. Whatever it is, whatever this negative thing is that's creating that in you, you have to change it, because your responsibility is you've chosen to be a therapist, which means you might be dealing people in very negative conditions and they need help. So therefore, it's your responsibility to do that as best you can. I also believe that if you are psychologically imbalanced and you're struggling with your mind and struggling with emotions, it's not your place to be an energy working therapist for somebody else. It's just not. You're not in the right place. It's not a problem. Work towards it. Now change it. If that's what you've decided to do, then you need to go away and train these things and change it. But you need to recognize you have a responsibility to do it. But I do think the same would apply to GPs. If you walk into a GP and they're half dead, and I know they only prescribe pills usually, but if you walk in and they're half dead, it's not very inspiring, is it? And I think it's the same for these arts as well. I also think it's the same for Tai Chi, Qigong as well. And I would never claim to be the most pure and healthy person on earth, but I would say my health is generally, not at the moment, generally pretty robust. Right now, like I say, just had a infection from living in Bali that hit one of the systems in my body, no big deal, and it's almost better. But generally, I'm pretty healthy. Now, this mindset means that this is why I don't offer, and this is what people are asking me for, is why I don't, because people come on my courses and they see me do it, and they see some of the senior people in the school doing it as well, issuing Qi. And this is why I keep telling him, I don't teach that and I don't offer that. And it's not something I can, because people get used to, look, you come and you do a 6-week course or a 3-month course or a 1-year course, or these days it's online or something like that, and now you're an energy worker. And what have you done? You've learned to hold your hands over someone and maybe mobilize some chi. And if you have learned to mobilize that chi, you haven't gone through the clearing out process. So realistically, you're probably passing your pathogens and your psychological hang-ups onto the other person. So I would say that, like if I were to offer that kind of training, which I'm not, that's not me saying I'm going to, but if I were to offer it, okay, sure, but we'll do 5 years of cleaning. You'll also go through 4 or 5 years of psychological assessment so we can see how you are. You go through another few years of building abundance of chi, and then only then, when you're really, really competent, perhaps then we look at energy treatments. But that would be the kind of length of course I would do, because of the impact you can have upon somebody's health. So that's why I think that people should just focus on themselves for a long time with regards to their health and regards to chi, not other people. And yeah, this explains. So this is just a short message, really, just to explain why I wrote that post that upset some people, actually, about why I say that you shouldn't receive a treatment offered to somebody that is unhealthy. And if, like myself, you've just had a sickness and you're in recovery, which can be like I had something that needed meds in a hospital, or it can be, maybe just had the flu. Life happens, doesn't it? Or whatever. Here in Bali, loads of people get dengue because the mosquitoes try to kill you like everything else does. So if you're in recovery from dengue or in recovery from the flu or something, then you'll need a break from doing energy treatments. If you are a therapist, you'll need to use something more manual because your body is not in a good enough state to bring the patient's body up. And the same, if ever I was not that I work as an energy therapist, it's just incorporated into my classes really, but if I were to be, if there were ever a very difficult emotional time, I wouldn't do energy work at that time. I just wouldn't. During that period when my mind was not centered and it was all over the place, that's not what I would be doing. I would be staying away from it as well, because I like to think that I'm responsible with such things. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I do my best.